welcome to the background sort of stuff. Now, this is just simply kind of what I felt making this series. I'll say this all the time, but I do not plan this shit at all. I mean, the story very much tells itself. It's very much in Skyrim's nature to be very sandbox. So that kind of happens. And, well, I kind of want these dreams to keep going with the Dragonborn, which kind of, in the long run, I know that these things are just spoilers. It's just me giving away the secrets of the story. That, when the time comes for her to fight the Elduin, it's obviously on her own, because the Dragonborn is the only one that can go to Skuldafn with the dragon. So this is kind of the why she also agrees to go on her own with the dragon, because she constantly sees the ones she loves continuously dying. So she kind of just this is the whole reason behind it, that she does it on her own because she doesn't want her friends dying. If they survive, some of them will, not all of them might. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of just the reasoning behind these nightmares. It's kind of like the Iron Man thing too, I guess. When he has that vision where he sees all his friends dead from Thanos, or whatever his fucking name is, the big bald-looking purple ballsack. And yeah, so this is the reason behind these nightmares. Simple as that. It's time to meet some new characters. I've been waiting to put these guys in my game for a while. And I kind of had it a bit late because I guess it might take a while for news to get to elsewhere, and then, for them to get to Skyrim. Elsewhere is the other side of Tamriel. It's the southern country where Skyrim's the north. And I thought I really want to add these two dudes because the armor is absolutely amazing. I love the design of them. So, and I'm using a Khajiit mod. I don't remember what the name is, but I've tried to change. So they're unique sort of Khajiit. This one's kind of more of the panther. I could have made it their fur black, but I've already got enough black werewolves. Like Freya. I don't want to look exactly the same. So I gave her more of like a hyena, more of like a spotted sort of skin for some reason. And the Lunar Guard obviously is her protector. And I've put some lore in there that she's from some Tomb Mars temple from it's ESO stuff. From elsewhere, and that the Lunar Guard followed her because that's kind of his job, to protect the moon priestesses, and she's one of them. She's also a pureborn werewolf because, I no doubt in werewolf culture, it's probably in elsewhere's culture, it's probably be amazed me born under a werewolf parent. Just added shit like that, and I had to try and find unique words because at the end of the day, two very different cultures, the Nords and the Khajiit. So they don't call Akatosh, they call him Aktosh or something like that. They do call her scene though, funny enough. So I didn't remake, and oh man, it's fucking a pain in the ass trying to remember how they speak. It's like Yoda, where he talks about like future tense, past tense, so these guys talk about themselves in third person. I gotta keep remembering that. And it is a pain in the ass. So I made sure the Dragonborn was a bit confused the way they speak, because she's never really dealt with any Khajiit in her life. She hasn't. And not directly talked to her. She's got one following her, the little one, Jazago, but she's never had to communicate with the Khajiit, and like the way they talk, she's like, huh? And she's got to think about it, like she's translating it in her head. But yeah, we got some two new. She's a melee character, and I've got some Khajiit mods on where like she'll like have like a melee sort of what is it called, melee stance where she's got her claws out, and it's pretty cool. So she's a werewolf. She'll fight dragons as a werewolf, but when she's not a werewolf, she will fight them with her bare claws. And her armor having very sharp talons on it is also really cool and effective. And yeah, so she's a melee character. And her big brute of a puma, aren't they called? I think they're called pumas. No, Pamars, or something like that, is going to be her guardian. Because whatever. The whole idea was to be in solitude for like a day. They just kind of went crazy. Yeah, like end of the day, no story is going to be all about action and diving deep into stories. It's just going to be sometimes based on these characters' lives, on where they are and what they're doing. And this is a kind of the moment where I talk about her past, where she talks about the nightmares that she used to have as a kid and stuff like that. Be scared of the night. And because vampires are creatures of the night, regardless if the attack happened during the daytime, she's going to be scared shitless as a kid from vampires, and turns to hatred and stuff like that. But sometimes like I think some stories go a little bit too heavy deep into all the action and all the the character blending, especially mine does that a lot too. But sometimes you just need some moments to kind of, I guess, relax the story, just let it be people being people. Because it's not all about fighting dragons, killing dragons, telling character stories. Sometimes it's just about letting the story breathe a little bit, letting the characters breathe a little bit. It makes it feel a bit more real, as from my perspective at least. I don't really know. I'm not a professional storyteller. The shit pops in my head and I put it on the screen and people like it or they don't. Either way. Now, old Rognik was badly wounded along with Vertilia and Centaurus. So, again, I thought, why not put him in here? He's injured and he's no doubt, getting some healing and, that sort of stuff. And he's a Knight of the Nine, or he was a Knight of the Nine. This would be the perfect place for him to kind of be. And, he's an old fella. He got badly beat up by the Forsworn, and he's in here being what he does. Like, no matter if he was religious and then he wasn't, and then when he met his wife again, had kids and he was, and all this sort of shit. But yeah, it's good because I've always built this guy to be sort of the father figure for Ragni. He's always someone she can talk to, like a father would, and to talk about stories and life lessons and stuff like that. And one of them is right where we're watching, where she's angry about them not worshipping Talos, and he goes, "You don't need a symbol to worship Talos, as long as we worship him in our hearts." And I wish more religions did that instead of making fucking mosques or churches and going to war over shit. Like, just enjoy your God in your heart in your private time. So yeah, he's more of the father figure, and I just want some time for him to kind of blend, because that's kind of what I want with these two. I kind of want when life's getting a bit heavy or it's a bit hectic and some bad shit's happened, people have died, she'll come to Rognik and talk to him, sort of like that. And that's kind of what I want with her, because her father, they're very similar in a way. Her father had 2 kids, and brought her home and built a home, and so did he from the war. And they're very similar backgrounds, but he survived, and his children mostly survived. His oldest son, I did actually create him, but he did die. So I was like, fuck it, righty, I'll go with it. And I made him a Stormcloak soldier for his previous history and all that sort of stuff. And I like the conversation they have with each other. I really do. It's someone that she can just talk to, someone she looks up to. Like I said, looks up to like a father figure, because he also has a daughter around her age and a son. So he's got kids of his own. Now, this is kind of to state that Centaurus is kind of in an uphill, downhill battle with his health. That arrow's probably pierced a rib that just keeps going into his lungs and stuff like that. And they heal him, but I don't see healing as fixing the problem. It just kind of stays it back with magic. It can help sort of mend wounds, but I don't think it can really do internal fixing like that. And he keeps getting healed by Minerva and the priestesses, and he feels good. And then after a while, he starts feeling like shit again, and he starts finding it hard to breathe, and he's pained. And it's kind of like he's just like he's kind of given he's a battery pretty much. He's charged up, and then he starts to deplete, and then he's charged up again, and it's just going to be a bit of a cycle with this poor bastard. And the Nightingale here expresses that she is worried about him, but she's also that kind of person where she sort of detaches if she's going to lose somebody. It's what she is. She's lived a very rough life, and she cares about someone they're going to die. She tries to force herself to detach, so she doesn't get hurt. And she does care about Centaurus, but at the end of the day, she knew that he would have walked her out to the chopping block to be executed. And so it's the same sort of thing for that. She cares about him, but she's nothing she can do to really save his life, so she has to move on. And she talks about Serana being a vampire and the morals of Ragni, that would she save Centaurus' life being a vampire hunter? Would she turn her back on every value that she's fought for to use that power that she's hunted to kill people, killed vampires for what they were, to turn one that she, to save someone she loves because of it? And it's kind of a bit of a moral dilemma, but she obviously says she would. And then she says about Centaurus wanting to kill Marilia. There's reasons for that, but again, she's a businesswoman, she's not going to go killing maybe one of her best suppliers. I mean, she could do information for the Imperials and stuff like that. And the Empire's going to be a lot nicer from the Thieves Guild and the Stormcloak side, because they're Nords and they kind of just brutalise and murder any sort of bandit or thief. So she prefers the Empire, and there's no way she's doing that. And I like this little bit here, because I was walking down, I was like, what if she does it? What if the morals of the Dragonborn have kind of rubbed off on her, and she's like, alright, I'll pay for my thing. So she's kind of learning to have a little bit of a heart, which is beautiful, I really think. I was going to have Ragni do it, but having her do it, I might, in the next chapter when they come back, she goes in to pay for it, and the shopkeeper's like, your friend's already paid for it. And kind of, she learns that the Nightingale paid for her theft, and she's kind of proud of her. I might do that. Yeah, it's kind of cool. So Minerva here, she is obviously a little bit angry still at Tonrock for what he said. He was a racist prick and a bit of an asshole. calling her an elf that he doesn't like. He doesn't like elves. He doesn't like mages. And again, when you're sleeping with someone, you've got to have a level of trust and respect. Hopefully, that the person that you're sleeping with doesn't say they hate elves or high elves and mages. When again you're sleeping, it kind of really drops your value down in your self-respect of sort of what you see yourself as. And she knows that, but she's quite at the same time. She's sad he's not around because they've been with each other since pretty much Jorvaska. Since he showed her the mask he had, and they've just talked and hung out and done the deed a few times. They've become companions of their own, I guess you could say. And she's grown lonely that he's not around. It's a normal thing. She's an adventurer. She's done a lot of this before her life, and this is probably the longest she's been away from the college. But again, this is kind of she's kind of become a part of him. They've become a part of each other in this journey. That they do it together. They've grown used to each other. They've grown to like each other. And like I said, she's been an adventurer, but she's kind of never been out of the college, and she's kind of grown accustomed to the college. She goes out and she explores in her story, but she always comes back, and she's been out for a long time. And Tonarok has made that a bit more bearable, following the Dragonborn, killing dragons, traveling across the world. She can just teleport all over the place. She is the Archmage of the College of Winterhold. She is a very powerful mage. So she could just teleport wherever she's been before. She doesn't have to go worry about walking everywhere. So she's kind of changed as a character herself as that lone explorer that goes out and does her own thing and disappears and this and that. She's become a bit more established as the Archmage. But yeah, she's felt lonely, and she wants to go and see Tonarok, and she wants to go sort their differences out because he hasn't been seen since Centaurus' place. And she's like, where the hell is he? I want to see him. I want to sort this out so we can get back on track. So I was going to have an entirely different arc here, and I put this on YouTube for everyone says keep him mortal, and I was going to break that. I was going to have him turn into a bloody vampire, walk outside, pale as shit, everyone looks at him scared shitless, and then wants to kill him. I was going to do that, but that idea was kind of replaced by another idea. So, again, the idea for him was to be turned into a vampire when the Dragonborn team was out, and they come back to find him, he's disappeared and vanished, and could be one of those things where a good guy becomes bad and you've got to kill him. But I don't really want to kill one of my own characters that way. My story is sandbox. It writes itself. That's very narrative based. If I turn him into a vampire and I design him to be killed, and that's not how I play the story at all. So I was like, no, we're not going to do that. I did think about introducing a brand new character for the whole entire thing, but no, we decided to go. Yep, we'll keep him mortal, and I've got a better idea down the line. And you no doubt watch this series, and you kind of know where that's going. But we've got Cecilia here, right? And she's heard from news from... She would have came here to annoy the Dragonborn anyway, try and train her. And the Dragonborn would be like, no, fuck off, leave me alone. But she's come and she's smelt the scent again, the lingering scent of the infection that she doesn't really deal with that much because she hasn't been a vet. She's never really... in her hunting, she's come across a few people that have been infected, but they've never been this long. If she's come across people that were infected, they were already turned or they're already dead. So she does carry potions for this during her hunts and journeys with, when she's out there bounty hunting or vampire hunting. Luckily for Tonarok, because, again, the potion store got robbed and it'll take her maybe a week to restock her stuff, and he just doesn't have the time. But, yeah, this is just kind of the clarification that. And I wanted to try something new with this story, the Nightingale, she's gone to sleep, and she'll disappear somewhere and no one will be able to find her, so she can, feel safe. And funny enough, what I actually believe is happening right now with the Nightingale story is that she's actually up in Ragni's room. And she's up there sleeping. Because, well, she will be up there sleeping because, I don't know. Serana will still be there. She doesn't trust Serana with her identity yet. But, yeah, it's kind of like she just disappears and no one's going to be able to find her when she goes for a nap. Because she's been up all night watching over Centaurus. And so she's going to, disappear for a sleep. Not realise what's happening and miss the team running out and going to hunt a dragon. And then you got Tonarok. He's out of the fight because he's very ill. Even with the potion, no doubt, in realistic terms, it'd probably take you a day or two to recover with ridding yourself of a killing disease. And so he's out of action because he can't really move. So we're missing Centaurus, we're missing Tonarok, and we're missing the Nightingale for this adventure, which is very different for the Dragonborn because she's... ever since she's had him, they've always been there by her side when she's moving across the place. And I thought it'd be a little bit of interesting dynamic. Minerva's obviously very worried about him and says that maybe she should stay back. But, Cecilia's like, no, the Dragonborn needs their protection. He'll be right. I'll deal with it. Now, he likes to call vampires fangs. And probably Cecilia probably doesn't like that, or his attitude towards women, or attitude towards her as a vampire. And she's done something she'll never really do. She's just bullshit, but she's a scary person. She's a boogeyman. And she turns into a vampire, like, just to go, if you don't go to the dock, if you don't go to the college after I'm done, I will come and meet you my fucking self and I will turn you. So she's kind of that scary person, she's like the big sort of, I don't know, she's like the one person you don't really want to piss off. And so her showing her face like that to Tonrak while he's half dying there on the bed would certainly put some fear into him. And for like, all right, man, when I start to be able to recover, I'm going to make my way to the college. I'm going to make my way to Temple of the Divines to get healed. This is a nice little conversation. This is that conversation I talked about where they're having that father-daughter conversation where they watch over Centauros. And it talks about the war. And I really like this, actually, because it makes a lot of sense that, she doesn't want to join the war because the two people she loves the most, and there's Luca in the corner, the two people she loves the most is, she can't betray either one of them. She just can't do that. And she doesn't believe this war is just, that it is the right war to fight. And Tonrak, Rognik reveals that his son died in this war. And it kind of puts a bit more perspective that if a Dragonborn, even of her power at the current time, and for the time to come, entered the war, she would slaughter thousands in days. Sure, the war would end sooner, but the death toll might be even more. I don't think it would be, but mere men fighting down a Dragonborn would be absolutely butchered and slaughtered, because they are demigods in a way. Especially when she'll be fully recognised as a Dragonborn, when her power is complete, she will be an absolute feared weapon. And she doesn't want to be remembered for that. She brings hope to people, and she knows she does that. She doesn't want to be remembered as a conqueror like Riemann Cyrodiil or Tiber Septim. She wants to be remembered as a Dragonborn that saved lives, that did her best to preserve life. And, she doesn't see herself as those conquerors. And it's mainly the part of me trying to tell a character of a female character. I mean, I'm not a woman, and I can't claim to understand him. If I ever try to understand him, I try to think, what would I do in that situation? Then I do the exact opposite. And so women are bringers of life. They are carers, they are lovers. It's just in their general nature, even if they're rough and tough. And so I kind of want that to reflect on her character, that she is, she's compassionate, she's caring, she's not like your typical rash, jump the gun male, and she wants to preserve life, she cares for life, because again, women are the creators of life. So I see kind of that reflection of a female character, that you need to be a bit more sort of embodiment of a soul, of a caring, loving person. So that sort of thing. I don't know, I can't really word it properly, but she sees herself as more of a protector of life than a conqueror. I mean, if her name was Rognir or something like that, she would no doubt, have a view on the war and think of what side she'd want to join, or he'd want to join, and then, go and do it. Because we're very rash, very sort of impulsive creatures, us men. We don't really think about the back sort of stuff, the cost of it all. We just kind of jump headfirst into it, and, consequences be damned. And she references here that she kind of wants to be seen more like Martin, who was thrown in this position with no choice and can do the best of it that she can. Because she's heard stories from Martin, from Cecilia and stuff like that, and she kind of feels like him in a way, and they're very similar in a way. Actually, they really are. They've had their lives thrown upside down because they've been called to service on the spot to be this hero, and they've had teams of people. Like in My Sky Oblivion, you'll see that in the years to come. But they've had people come to her and him to aid them in their journey to save the world. So she's very much like Martin Septim in a way, where their stories are very similar in aspects of it, of course. They were thrown in this position on the spot, and they had to do with what they could and save as many lives as they could. Now we obviously get Minerva coming here to go, yep, boom, we got to go, bro, we got a dragon attack. She can't really say no to that. She can say no to Cecilia for training. And she tells Rognik to go see his family, which is something I actually want to do. Because in the chapters to come, she might get a letter from Rognik telling him where, making sure that, telling her to meet him somewhere, and he'll then take her to his family so he can actually meet her daughter. Because he could die on this journey. It's all sandbox, and it'd be kind of cool to go and meet the family, to meet the daughter that he's talked so much about, the son and the wife, and have dinner with him that night, and that sort of cool shit. And then, if he does die, then, she knows personally where to take his body. Personally where to tell the family. Which would be sad, but again, it's part of the story, and if it does happen, she'll know where to go. that sort of thing. So again, I do want to in these chapters, maybe if we move out a little bit or head west or north or whatever, head back to Whiterun for something, that she'll go and meet Rognik on her own and stuff like that. Maybe she might take Sigurd and Centaurus with her, as trusted, because they don't want her travelling on her own, regardless if she's powerful or not. They want her safe, and she's got Serana, but whatever. I'll figure that out when I get there. But that's kind of the idea. Now, again, I've made this armor for Serana for a long time, and I've been waiting for it to keep it. I mean, that looks fucking beautiful. I don't give a shit what you say. That looks gorgeous. And if the Dragonborn's going to get armor, then she's going to make sure the love of her life gets armor, because it's very much like the whole protective girlfriend thing, I guess. That she's a vampire and Dragonfire is a threat. And if she's going to wear this bulky ass armor to keep her alive, then she's going to want to make sure that the love of her life is protected against Dragonfire, And that's a natural thing. Obviously, she's a mage; she doesn't want to wear heavy armor, but the Dragonborn wants her to, because she wants to feel that she's protected at least against the vampires. And this is kind of that. This is you wear this, and I'll be happy. And that's kind of the way Serana sees it. It is quite sleek, and no doubt the old Dawnguard armor was kind of wearing off and would have been a little bit more uncomfortable than the Ebony armor, I guess. But yeah, I wanted to give her a new look if the Dragonborn's going to move out of the Dawnguard armor, and then her companion's also going to move out of the Dawnguard armor. And nice little things here. Serana is, she understands what the Dragonborn wants from this, and kind of refers on wanting to walk around naked, which kind of excites the Dragonborn a little bit. I'm always going to put a little bit of smut into these things with these two characters, because again, just because they love us and care us doesn't mean they love sex. It doesn't mean they love looking at each other's naked body. Like, that's just bullshit. Chicks don't fart pixel dust. It's, whatever. Now, this conversation kind of leads into the details of the event. I'm going to kind of scoot this through real quickly. That what's going on on the Reach. She's going to have to walk this heavy-ass armor into the Reach, and she finds out that that she's not going to have Tonorak, she's not going to have the Nightingale because they can't find her, and they're not going to have Centaurus because obviously his condition. And she feels a bit worried. And she's like, "What the fuck, man? I'm traveling with with these people." But at the end of the day, she's got an Imperial Legion behind her and Stormcloak raiders behind her, and volunteers from Skyrim and across Tamriel, and those that remain of her her 5 companions. And things like that. So she'll be okay, but she does feel quite worried not having these people around with her. And naturally so, because they've followed her everywhere, and they're going, this is the first battle she's gone off to, not having them around. And, yeah, I mean, Cecilia basically reassures, like, we'll be right. We've got plenty of horses. We'll be good. Let's just get out there, deal with this dragon, and see how it goes. And that's kind of nice. And she's a bit surprised that Tonrak turned into a vampire. Obviously, I know, and hopefully you know if you've been watching the series, and that'll be a consequence to follow in another day. But, yeah. I kind of do like these scenes where the character just walks and talks, filters through their head. And I did get distracted here, but so did Ragni, because she likes girls too. And so she's talking about how the dragons are flying across Skyrim, that the holds and the legions of the Stormcloaks are defending their holds from dragon attacks or nearby. And they're killing dragons, but somehow they're getting resurrected. That Elduin's coming in and out of Sovngarde to resurrect fallen dragons here and there. I don't know if that makes 100% sense, but again, he isn't at full power. He spent every ounce of his power resurrecting all the dragons he could, and that, no doubt, even if he's a goddamn dragon, would deplete him big time. And I kind of do want to have scenes where I see him flying off in the distance, where the dragon will actually see him, or he could even fly by and just cook people and fly off. I'm not sure if I'll be able to manage that AI. But yeah, he's still obviously in Sovngarde, charging every bit of power that he possibly can, because he fought the Dragonborn, and he could have slaughtered her, but he didn't, and in that arrogance, that will cost him. But he wants to make sure that he's damn well near impossible to kill when the next time they face, or when he returns to Skyrim, that sort of thing. So I kind of want to, and I might do this in a different sort of story. I might give it a different episode name, in a way, or a different name instead of Journeys to the Dragonborn. It's the Hunt of the Dragons or something like that, where I explore the other characters, the miscellaneous characters, that go out and actually hunt dragons on their own without the Dragonborn, or she's not there, she's not around. They go out and they hunt the dragon, they put it down and stuff like that. But yeah, it's kind of her just filtering her head with the dragons across Skyrim, and she's obviously been sent to deal with one that the Hold couldn't deal with. I mean, Markarth is a stone city. Dragons can't really burn it down, so one might have decided just to kill all its supplies, take out all their supplies, so they can't be fed, and they're forced to try and flee Markarth because they're starving, and the dragon will cook them there, sort of thing. That's kind of the idea of that one, anyway. Now, she thinks the dragon up in the distance is obviously that dragon, but it's not. And this is kind of where she has to come to terms of what she is and who she is. Because she is, like I said, she's a compassionate soul, and she's met, she started off a hunt for vampires because she saw them as absolute monsters. And then she came to realise they weren't monsters. Well, a few of them were, either because they indulged in the power and they became a monster, or they felt their lust and became a monster. But, not all of them were. She's met a couple of them, she's in love with one of them. And she kind of mentions that when she's at this wolf's den, that she doesn't harm the wolves because they're probably raising their young, and that every creature they can kill, it can either decide to or not decide to, depending on the circumstance or whatever. But she also sees dragons like Parthenax. She's met a good dragon, and so she believes that dragons can be good, that not all of them deserve to die. Because the very first one she went out of her way to kill cost her a Stormcloak life, which was the Lavia Swordsinger, which was my Skyrim-born Imperial character. And so ever since then, she didn't really want to go out of her way to attack dragons because it cost her lives. Every time she goes and attacks dragons, people die. And so she doesn't want to go and kill them because it will cost her the lives of her friends and her friends' friends. But maybe not all of them deserve to die. But there's a certain conversation we'll get to where she realises that this is kind of what she's here for. Now, the realisation that, she finds out this isn't the dragon she's meant to kill. And, basically, she's like, we'll just dodge it. Because she doesn't want people with her to die, and she doesn't want to kill something that maybe doesn't deserve it. Then we have Nox, who's a Dremora, who fought in the Oblivion Crisis for Dagon, mentioning that, yes, he has to die, because his master is still alive. And while his master, is still around, Elduin, every dragon will do what they are told that serves him. They will do exactly what they're told. And if it's not a threat now, it'll be a threat later for sure. So she's very much understands having a lord and following the chain of command of her master. That when he was, when she was bound to him, that she had no other choice but to serve him. And the same thing for the dragon. So she goes, yep, we've got to kill it. And every other dragon in our path needs to die also. She's very much in a very similar place to what that dragon is, that she had to command the structure. Now, funny enough, I have Veronica, who's the one right beside Nox on the left, the werewolf. I was going to have her mention the Forsworn camp behind us, that they should kill him, because her brother did die to Forsworn. But I didn't do it, because I probably just forgot. But she's sitting there in the command window with no voice whatsoever, very much like Serana, a werewolf and a vampire, not having anything to say. And she's kind of, Ragni's kind of understanding what Nox is saying, that it's a personal perspective that, that with Elduin around, these dragons will do what they're told. And so Cecilia's like, ugh, yuck, but I agree with the Dremora. It is right. If Elduin is still around, these dragons, no matter if they agree or they disagree, will do exactly what they're told. It might not be a threat now, but it might kill people down the road, take a certain position, and harass and kill innocents. So Ragni wants advice, and she asks Julia, who's her new commander for the Empire, and she's like, yep, straight up, kill it, bro. This is all our enemies. We have to kill these things. She's talked to experience of cohorts being wiped out. Freya makes fun of her, saying she's part dragon, and she kind of understands that because she's also part wolf, and wolves don't attack her. And Minerva's like, yeah, probably actually is. They have the same soul, so it's probably a kinship between them in some sort of way. And Ragnar's like, yeah, maybe it's probably why I don't want to kill him. But Cecilia does tell her, everyone tells her that this is what she's here to do. She wasn't here to rule empires or create wars. She was here to kill dragons. That is her ultimate thing. She's the only one that can permanently kill these dragons. This is what she's here to do. And if she doesn't, if she spares this dragon, any other dragon down the line, it could very well cost thousands of lives of innocents because they've either decided to nest somewhere, which is going to be in between life, or they've been ordered by Elduin to do something which will kill many people. And so this is where she kind of comes to realise that she has to do this. She understands that if Elduin's gone, dragons might have a choice of their own, but it's kind of where she goes, yeah, they're right. If I don't deal with it now, I'll have to deal with it later. And if I don't deal with it now, thousands of people will die later. So until Elduin is gone and they have no master, then I guess every last one of them needs to meet their end. It's kind of a realization for her that this is what she is here for. This is her duty. This is her responsibility. This is what she has to do. And she does come to the conclusion that maybe after, Elduin's defeated, that she doesn't have to hunt and kill every dragon. That some of them could find their own way and live in peace. They might find a mountain they want to live on and just stay there and, fight amongst each other or, But again, it's just the hopeful thing of a youthful woman, I guess. She's young, and she no doubt sees the good in things, and hopefully, like when she sees that she has to kill these things, that when Elduin's gone, not all of them are going to be bad. It's just the optimistic view. They are creatures of conquest. They are humans to us ants, or to ants. They are gigantic creatures of domination. It's in their very nature to do this. So, who knows? But that's a story for another goddamn time. I did forget to mention every time she kills a dragon, I try to knock her cooldowns down a little bit. And when I'm fighting these dragons, I wanted to start using her actual shouts, like proper shouts. Making sure she's in that and using shouts against dragons. Because eventually in this story, she's going to have to go up against dragons on her own. She'll get powerful enough to, and she'll start killing them quicker enough where she realizes that she wants to spare lives. Obviously, she's sick of people following her and dying. She's blaming that all on herself, and so she's going to get to a point where she goes out on her own, and she has to fight dragons on her own. And that's when she'll know she'll be 100% ready to fight Elduin. Even though these dragons don't compare to Elduin, she'll know that she's ready. And this way she goes out and does her thing without having to sacrifice people that follow her. And by this time, hopefully, we've got a bit more stories out where we can talk about the side characters. Different sort of episode series where just random characters are out there hunting dragons at the Dragonborn sort of thing. I don't know. Now, I remark on this all the time, these stories write themselves, and they fucking do. Because, like I said, it's Skyrim's very nature to be sandbox. It doesn't follow any sort of rhythm for me. It just goes out and does its own thing. And this is one of those things. Now, again, this dragon, funny enough, is actually on the ground. I've filmed this dragon before, but for some reason, it's always laying down. I don't know if it's a Dawnguard sort of thing or a Dragonborn sort of thing that's added in, but this dragon sits on the ground and is bloodied, so it's already wounded. And it's kind of cool because it states that this dragon has been attacked by the Markarth forces, that being the Stormcloaks. It's been out there killing people, it's been out there taking arrows, and it's been in combat, so it's injured. And I did put the Drago around it to protect it, because this is what the Drago will be doing. They'll be following their master's whims and protecting them. And yeah, so he was already damaged when I arrived there, which is kind of cool, because it kind of suits the purpose of this dragon. Has been a menace and has been attacked by Stormcloak soldiers in the Reach. And we get to see the penalties of that. There are dead Stormcloak soldiers around here. And more to follow. None of the legionaries died. I mean, obviously the Legion's got better troops. But this story writes itself in the impact where I came here to fight these guys. And shit happens. I mean, we lost someone. And it kind of sucked. It really did. Because this someone was actually someone I had a story for, lined up for the future. Now, I actually died a couple of times in this, funny enough, because there was a certain dragon, it's probably the dragon that killed her, that just one-hit me, man. I was like, what the fuck? It one-hit me and just obliterated me. And I was like, dude, that was crazy. I think it was a Dragon Deathlord or whatever. But yeah, it was a bit of a nuts fight. And then, I don't know, I like big battles, obviously. I guess you can tell that from my series. And I wanted her using more shouts. She saw a lot of people, so she used Ice Form, because it would keep a lot of them distracted, a lot of them out of the fight. And then she'll pop fire shouts and stuff like that. So I wanted to be a bit more versatile with her shouts. Sometimes I forget here that I actually have a cooldown. But I will get to a point to where the Dragonborn does not have a cooldown for her shouts, and she'll just be able to pop them off like crazy. And that would be wild. I can't wait for that. Now, this is kind of the thing that happens here, where they're just checking the bodies, checking the Stormcloaks, looting them probably, making sure they're all anyone's alive, or just exploring the area. And the Dragonborn does that. She goes and sees a dead orc. She's like, oh, what the hell, an orc? Rightio. And then we get to the sad part, and I didn't want to do this. Everything in my body, right in the story, I was like, nah, just resurrect her. Fuck that. Don't do it. I was like, because I already had a plan for it, but I was like, oh, dude, remember, this is what your story is here for. This is to be sandbox, to change on the whim. And so I was like, rightio, I've got to do it. And this is, we've met Vitalia quite a few times. She's the Imperial Traitor. She's Sigund's commander. Under Sigund. She commands Sigund's troops. And this is her daughter, Brila. Now, Brila is the height of a Nord. She's got pale skin and red hair. She looks like a Nord, but she is an Imperial, because her mother's an Imperial. And the idea in the last chapter was, for Vertilia to send her daughter to kind of see what Brianna's doing with her Stormcloak troops. Because Vertilia wanted her out of the fight. She didn't want her fighting dragons because she's a mother. And she's died here on the dragon hunt, because no doubt in between that, Sigund's told her to go to explore, to go and find out what Brianna's doing. But she's gone, no, I'm not leaving my mother behind. She's injured, and I'm not leaving her to fight dragons on her own. And this is a consequence of war that, especially back in the day, like early 1900s, fathers went to war with their kids during the Great War in World War Two. And they went and they had to watch their children die. It's happened a lot in this series that, just because you're a parent doesn't mean you can protect them against everything. And it's so bad because Vitalia was also injured with Centaurus and Rognek in that fight, that she wasn't here to protect her daughter. And this is going to... Man, I really hope that I can get the AI to really feel this, man. Because that's my biggest concern about telling the story with the AI. Like, you need the characters feeling sympathetic, trying to work their way up to telling what's happened. And then you need Vitalia to really lose her shit when she finds out. And I don't know if I'll be able to do that with AI. It's a bit worrying, but hopefully I can. It might take a while to get that done. But yeah, it's the reality of the story, I guess. She went out there, she refused to go find out what Brianna was doing, and she died because she didn't listen. And the consequences of that decision are going to be apparent in the next episode. This really hurts Sigund because she does care about Vitalia. Vitalia joined because she also had a bone to pick with the Empire, but her daughter wanted to avenge her father, who was killed by the Imperials, who fought for the Imperials, and she went to follow her daughter to protect her daughter. And the one time that she's out of the fight, the one time she's badly injured, her daughter dies. And this is why it's heavy on Sigund, because she deeply cares about Vitalia. She took her in. No one else would, because she was an Imperial. And it's going through her head right now that she's losing everyone. That she, a lot of the stuff that she's lost a lot of things on this journey, and she has to go and tell someone she deeply cares about that her daughter's dead. That's weighing on her soul. That's Sigund's fault. She's the ultimate commander. She could have told her to fuck off and go to Brianna, but she accepted Briella going, no, I'm going to save my mother, and she let her stay, and so that's on her heart, unfortunately. And man, I've always told Sigund's story that she's a very strong, independent Nord, very born for the blade, not for the hearth. She's been very mentally strong, when it comes to fortitude and just her presence in the world. I want her to kind of be someone that other women in the story would want to look up to, especially the Dragonborn. And what's happened to her since we arrived in Solitude has shown a very big, vulnerable side of her character that she's been really fucked with emotionally. And she's showing a lot more of a vulnerable side, of course. And that's a very beautiful thing, especially for my story, that not everyone can remain who they are when they start. No one is ever the same, especially in stories like this. And even Ragni, she's starting to, talk like she's a leader. She's starting to act like she's a leader. She's not trying to, she's putting everything on herself. She doesn't want to show. She wants to sort of, in a way, the way I'm treating her with Sigund is that she wants to be Sigund's protector in a way, even though Sigund has been her protector. That, again, sort of, Sigund's been a rock. She's been the rock, and that rock is starting to fall apart. And Ragni sees this and realizes that she needs to become the rock for Sigund at this current time, and so she kind of puts that blame. She tries to take the blame from Sigund, puts it on herself, and tries to watch over and be the. And especially with things like Arcane, I've always mentioned this in everything ever since I watched this. Sometimes the little sister will always become the big sister and protect the big sister, and this relationship between them two is Ragni is her little sister, and she always sees Sigund as her big sister. And in this case, I guess Jinx had to protect Vi by looking out for her here and there. And that's kind of how I see this, where she's having to take the position off Sigund's shoulders. And she sees the dragon, she goes, holy shit, and then she sees a bunch of Draga, and so she throws Dragon Rend, so it can't get away. And then I get stuck on a fucking tusk, and then I get blown away multiple times, because I've got multiple Death Lords. Pains in the ass. But we eventually didn't manage to kill it, and funny enough, it killed 2 more Stormcloaks. That was rough, man. I mean, there's shit tons of more Legionaries here than there is Stormcloaks, but somehow I lose them. There are a bunch of dead bodies around, both Stormcloak and a hag. So it just indicates that, the Stormcloaks did come to its lair and did try to kill it, and it is currently injured. And it was an easier kill than it would have been if it was flying around, and if it was at full health I would have lost more. But I did lose a couple, and that's just the way that it goes. This is kind of what they're there for, to aid the Dragonborn and to die for the Dragonborn, and shit like that. Now, I think I did complete a word here, didn't I? It's another word. Honestly, man, this would have been a cool shout, like a secondary enchantment, because it's so shit. Because if you have an enchanted blade, you cannot use this shout. It is so AIDS. I mean, how cool would it be to slow down time and then use this dragon shout to increase your speed time on your weapons? You just throw it, like, dude, you'd be a Super Saiyan for fuck's sakes. But you can't use this shout if you have an enchanted weapon, which is just shit. But apparently you can have 2 enchantments of your weapon at high range. It's just so dog shit. It makes the shout so useless. I'd like to find a mod where it just bypasses that, if there is one. But yeah. I didn't want to spend 20 years burying these guys and have a conversation because the sun was going down. So it was kind of just a little speed jump, bury, Breela, bury the other 2, and get out of town. And deal with it later. Now, Ragni remarks here that she's lost so many people that she's starting to forget them. And I guess this is a common thing where you're in a fight for life, you're in a fight for all existence, that death and loss become normal. It's not every day is going to be the same. But not every you wake up not knowing if you're going to live tomorrow, and you're kind of worried about yourself, but you're also worried about the people that follow you. But again, she's lost so many people fighting these dragons that it's a natural thing. It's a natural thing for her to lose people, and she's starting to kind of get numb to the experience of it. And it saddens her because she's a compassionate person. She cares and loves for the good people, and it's she doesn't like the idea that she's starting to forget people or starting to not really be affected by it anymore. That maybe watching these guys die and burying them, she didn't feel anything. She felt maybe just disappointment and sadness that they had died, but it didn't really feel like it used to, where she used to really punch her in the guts, where she felt completely and utterly guilty. I don't know. It's kind of like, she's been doing this for a while now, a couple months, and she's lost people along the way. She's just started to get numb to the experience. So I guess it'd be like a soldier. You start off, training, and then you lose people along the way, and you feel so bad, so terrible because of it. And then, I guess a year into it, if you're still alive, that it feels like an everyday sort of thing. It becomes part of your routine, losing people, and the experience of it is lost on you. Now, I actually had all the troops camp out up here. We'll come back the next chapter. We'll see a bit of that in the morning. Now, Ragni comes through here and she kind of talks about things. Because, again, she hasn't been here in a long time. The last time she was here, she was Leonoid. She was as a Dawnguard hunter with the man she was with then. And so that's the last time she was actually here. She does a reference on the certain vampire she was tracking back then and calls the sort of chick a whore. And then she realizes, like, oh, fuck. Well, now I'm sleeping with a vampire. So what kind of, I did get in trouble with that in the comment section. Someone gave me shit. So I was like, yeah, we'll kind of counter that she kind of looks a bit hypocritical right now, that she's sleeping with a vampire herself and all that sort of stuff. But again, different life, different journey. And yeah, I thought I'd kind of reference the last time she was here and the last time she kind of referenced the priestess, calling her a whore for sleeping with a vampire and being a sex sort of priestess. But she's kind of in the same place now, even more so than she was last time. She references giving this place to the Stormcloaks during the peace treaty, and she's kind of, and she knows that this choice is going to kill thousands of Imperial soldiers. Maybe not thousands, but you know what I mean. In the future. And so that's going to weigh on her heart. Now she's looking for the Jarl, and she turns around and fires. Sigarn just can't keep eye contact with her, that she's got a sad face, and she knows she's going through some shit right now. And Sigarn's kind of just doing what she does, as strong people do. They just kind of like blow you off. Wrong terminology, as in they just kind of push you away and go off and do their own thing and kind of suffer in their own little environment, so don't take everyone else down with them. It's kind of people do when they're leaders. They take their responsibility on their own shoulders and deal with it themselves. But Ragni's also a leader, and she can see that, and she deeply cares for Sigarn. She sees her as a sister. I mean, Ragni is a sister herself. She's an older sister, but she sees Sigarn as her older sister. Sigarn's like 26, 27 years old. Ragni's 19, 20. So she's a lot older than her in terms of maturity and what she's been through in her life. And she's seen Sigarn go from this strong, really fierce Nord to a very vulnerable person with much shit going on in her life, with the loss of Vitilia's daughter, to the loss of her sister, to the loss of people she's loved in this battle, to obviously the consequences of certain feelings with a certain somebody that just rocked up and, man, I couldn't even write this shit if I wanted to. That was poetic. I was bleed into Centaurus and he shows up. Like I mentioned, the priestess will come and heal him, kind of mend his wounds a bit, but the magic isn't a permanent thing. It just kind of pauses what's happening to him. His wound is quite grave, and he does get quite pale and does wheeze and does lose his breath. And with the magic, he can walk around. Now with this, I was actually kind of amazed that I thought about this. But when I was walking, people who were badly injured don't want to go walking downstairs. So what I did when I went to first person, I made sure it looked like he was holding onto the wall. So when he walked down the stairs, he had some balance, he had some structure. So I did that because it's something that people do when they got no balance or they're very sore. They will hold on to something or they walk down the stairs. And this is what I did here. Now, he actually sees Tonorak in here because Tonorak is obviously scared of Cecilia. You'd be a fool if you weren't. A 200-year-old vampire that survived on her own. That's someone you don't really want to fuck around with. And he spots Tonorak in the temple because he's doing what he was told. And he's like, what the fuck? Why in the shit are you here? You're not the kind of guy I'd imagine to ever step foot in a place of worship. And there's a good reason for that. And it's not just that he was, he's self-reflecting in a little way. He's kind of guilty about what he said to Minerva. And he's also worried about his actions towards, after Minerva left. Because she was like, I'm going to go be with Freya for the night. And he's taken those, like, oh, he's going to go sleep with Freya, what a bitch. She obviously wasn't. She was there to do a werewolf, to study a werewolf ritual. And he, being the arrogant, spiteful prick that he was, saw a pretty lady. There was plenty of fish in the sea, but somehow he decided to pick one with slaughterfish teeth. And, he's paying the consequence of that. But he's also reflecting on... I love this man. This is one of my proudest scenes. He's reflecting on his actions and stuff like that, And honestly, man, this was like... This went for 7 minutes, and I was just... I loved it, man. It really explores these two, because they don't really have many conversations with each other. The first time they met was in the Battle of Whiterun, when he aided the Imperials because the Stormcloaks were throwing rocks into his city. I don't think you really get to see him in that battle. It was hands-on. It was crazy. And these are just two blokes having a conversation. They're in the same sort of atmosphere, same sort of, they're fighting the same fight. And having these, they haven't had much of a sit down, have a meet, have a talk, They are, bound to each other because they're bound to the Dragonborn. And they're also in a very similar boat of how they feel for their certain prospective partners, or people they like. And they're kind of in the same field. Centaurus has got borrowed time, and so is Tonorak on a certain atmosphere. he's got a certain amount of time until he's gone. And Centaurus is... They're kind of reflecting of each other in here. They're mirrors of each other in almost every aspect of how they feel about the people they like or love. I definitely say love, and that sort of thing. Centaurus really reflects on, being around, and almost dying. That it's kind of really made him appreciate Sigurd a lot more. And I've mentioned this in the past. When you've done something that you've lost someone or you're about to lose someone, it makes you reflect heavily on what that person means to you, what they truly mean to you. And this is both the case for Sigurd and Centaurus, and even now Tonorak. He's regretting his decision, and he knows that this could very well spell the end of him, but also the end of his friendship and relationship with Minerva. Because it's just sex for them and partnership and companionship and that sort of stuff. But they've definitely over the time grown to really appreciate each other and feel something for each other, something genuine. And it's not really for him because he's a lady slayer. He's a lady born. And he's kind of found one that he really likes, and it's the very thing that he's hated his entire life, being elves trying to kill him and mages. And the whole enemies to lovers idea again, but in his mind, from the people that he's hated, from the things that he's hated, and he's fallen for one. Especially him being this brutish, mead-drinking warrior that slays the ladies, and this is also why he's reflecting. But he's also got some advice for Centaurus, and it's very good advice. He's kind of making him understand how he feels. That, look, sure, man, you're going through a war. You're not at the moment, but you're both opposites of each other. You're both, fighting for two different leaders for Skyrim. But you're in the here and the now, man, and you can't waste that time, because if you both waste your time dodging each other, and you go back to this war, one of you could die. And this is something that if you survive, this is something that you'll live with for the rest of your life. And currently in Centaurus' state, he could still very well die very soon. And if you don't act before, if you do die, then you're going to regret it and she's going to regret it. And, this is good for Centaurus. This really opens his eyes to the whole thing of Sigurd. What he said to Tonrak, and Tonrak's reflected back to us, bro, you love her. And having someone say that back to him, it kind of refers that he does love her. That they've been through some shit together, and they've come to be very close. And it's sort of that thing when you love someone, the first thing you think about when you wake up, and the last thing you think about when you go to sleep. And this is kind of him. And he's in a situation now where he could very well die. And like I said, the closer you get to dying, the more you realise what you have. The time you haven't spent, the things you haven't done, and the people you haven't told how you feel about them. And this is really what's catching up to Santoros, that sure, they are enemies, and he's worried about all that sort of shit, but they're both in conflicted spaces. And he does tell a few jokes. I wish I could... The AI did laugh at me the other day. Weirdly enough, I didn't even put any funny thing in it, but it laughed at me, and I was like, what the fuck? But he cracks a few jokes. I'm a bit of a joker myself. I'm an Australian. It's in my very DNA to crack jokes. And if I didn't make fun of someone from a different country, give them a bit of shit, the Australian government would probably revoke my citizenship. So, a bit of Centaurus reflects through me. He is obviously my character that I started playing Skyrim with, and he's like, bro, when you do tell Minerva, when you do tell her what you've done, for sleeping with other people, bring a shield with enchantment on it. And then bring a broom, so she can sweep you away and fly away on a broom. So I really like that. That's a pretty clever joke. I'll go with that one. And Tonrak's like, oh, fucking funny guy, are we? And obviously, they're two blokes. They're good mates. I wouldn't say they're best of friends, but they are definitely close friends because of the journey that they're definitely in with. They're both in similar boats in both their environment and their sort of personal little dilemmas. And I really liked having this conversation between them because they've never really sat down and had a conversation with each other in my story. And I love kind of having characters come together that I haven't done with before and have this sort of how they view things. Because they've all got their own personalities, their own walks of life, and having them kind of come together and either clash or mould with each other. So it was a very fun thing as a storyteller to have these characters bleed into each other in a way. And it's unique, and I love doing it. Now, I did mention here that these guys are actually related to Ulfric. Now, it kind of would make sense, noble families being that would definitely spread around, that maybe this guy's Arnie was Ulfric's mother, that she was a Silverblood, and she was sent off to Windhelm to eventually marry Hogue Stormcloak, because they're both powerful families, one from the west and one from the east. So, it's kind of cool, and you kind of might notice something in their eye colour, with Ulfric and a certain other character that we're about to meet soon. And, of course, the silver, maybe the reason they're called Silverbloods is because their eyes are silver, not just because they mine silver, but their eyes are kind of silverish. And they kind of he gave Ragnar the key to this old Dwemer building, that has been vacant. And it's kind of cool because when characters come back here in the future, sorry about the joke, I thought it'd be funny. It's not funny, it's stupid. That, whoever comes here to live in the future will have some memories of a little bit more than just a home they're brought, but a sort of journey where they had a certain conversation with a certain somebody. They could sit there at the fire in the years to come and just remember the time they spent with this person, the very important person of Skyrim. And it's going to be one of those things I can't wait to do, man. I'm very proud of the series, I really am, because I've been doing this for I think 2 years now, right? I don't know if it's 2 years or 1.5, I don't remember, but it's coming together, and I love that. I really do. It's been an emotional role. Some of this shit made me cry writing it, and that's pathetic. It really is. Arcane has opened up my Arcane's I'm gonna say how it is. It's a cunt. It's a domestic violence abuser. It abused my soul, and it's really opened me up to the storytelling in a way that I can share my emotion with you guys and kind of make these stories a lot more deeper. I thought it'd be funny for her to call it Yuzumi, because she's a bit of a pervert. She likes Ragnar. It's her girlfriend or wife or whatever the hell it is, and she calls her pubic region Yuzumi's beard. I thought that'd be a cool little thing to add. But anyway, this series has. It's been amazing to make. It really has, because I put a lot of my personal emotion into this sort of stuff, and hopefully it bleeds off into it, and people can really kind of enjoy the story, making it feel a lot more real, a lot more grounded. That's kind of what I want to do with it. I know it's AI voice, but hopefully people can feel something real from this sort of stuff, and that's kind of what my goal is as a storyteller, to make you feel something real, to make you feel like this is a story, not just some narrative, let's play sort of thing. And that's kind of what I hope. And I hope I've done that. I haven't heard any negative comments that it hasn't at the moment, but Again, I'm always up for negative comments because it kind of, if you're not told anything bad, you think you're doing something right, and then, you're not looking at it for anything you're doing bad, and then you fuck up, and then people hate it. But yeah, this story after watching Arcane has definitely been a learning experience. It's I've been waiting for something to happen for 2 years now, and it's getting very close. And like I've said this before, but when the time feels right, it will happen. And the time is, it's getting warm. It's getting very, very warm. And a lot of these chapters have been based off them. I mean, it's the Journeys of the Dragonborn, but quite a few of these have really focused on the two other main characters in my story. Those that deal with more, those that conclude the main story of Skyrim. Skyrim's got two stories. It's got Skyrim's story, which is a civil war, and it's got the Elder Scrolls story, which is the dragons. And these two are the main characters of Skyrim's main story. So they are very much included into the Journeys of the Dragonborn because they are obviously main characters in a way. They are. There's so much to them that I don't think I have the time to really to talk about them. That they're just as important as she is, and she learns so much from them from all aspects of everything they've done. She absorbs what she sees from these two. That I've talked about this before, but she wanted to join the Civil War. Didn't know which side she wanted to join. By the end of this, she knows that no side is right or no side is wrong because she sees these two Civil War soldiers that hate each other really change their dynamic around each other, and it opens her eyes and even their eyes, the experience of it. Now, again, I kind of just go off that Sigun is going to sort of be her own person in this, to be on her own, to not let anyone see her cry, because that's what leaders do. They don't want people seeing them cry. And she's going there to reflect and have a few drinks and be on her own to think about things. And she's like, dude, I just want to be left alone. She doesn't want Ragnar to see her cry. She doesn't want to see her emotional. I mean, she still sees herself as Ragnar's, older sister in a sort of way, but she has to protect and lead Ragnar. And the dynamic is slowly changing, as you can obviously see. The dynamic of protector and leader is slightly changing, which is good. Because I don't want Ragnar to ever stay the same. I mean, when I first had her and these sort of things, she was always seen as young and naive and not liked. But now she's obviously liked, which I love. But she needs to have that other dynamic where she goes from this naive sort of Dragonborn, not naive, but inexperienced, and then kind of takes the command of leader. She needs to take that and command it in a way, and this is what she kind of does with Sigun. She's there for her when she needs her, as a leader should be. She just throw a few jokes in here, which I kind of find funny, and the AI was spot on with this emotion, man. I loved it. She's like, get up, and she's like, obviously Sigun's straight, and she's like, man, you better not get up and try and kiss me, because she knows that Ragnar likes women. She's with one, and she's like, don't you tempt me. There's some soft lips. So she's obviously joking around with her. Because, there's obviously respect and all that sort of stuff. But there needs to be some sort of humour in there. I mean, when you're dealing with people you really care about and really love, there you go. There's that sort of cheeky grin where she's joking about kissing her. And that sort of stuff. And I really hope that I do these conversations justice. I hope they feel organic, because, I mean, that's the hardest thing, telling stories built of AI and that aren't real. That I hope these stories, these characters, when they're talking, that they feel organic, they feel real. They feel like there's an actual chemistry, there's emotion there between these people, that they care about each other. And that's my main goal. I really hope that people, when they watch these, they feel that they're watching something that feels real. That's kind of the end of the day, is what I really want out of this series. Yeah, and like I said, Sigun is kind of, she's the leader, she's the tough one, and it's kind of, that relationship's kind of changing in this way. And she kind of shows this right here, especially when she's talking about Centauros. Sigun pulls away and she's like, girl, shut up. People can't find out my feelings for Centauros. Because she kind of forgets where she is, and, Ragnar thinks she's, done something wrong. And then she kind of like, oh, you just said his name out loud, you idiot. And then Sigun's like, fuck, shit. And she's, she's a bit worried that she's just said this out, because she's not thinking. Her thoughts are kind of impulsive. She's worried about, what she has to say, who she's lost, and obviously she's heavily in the mind of Centauros because she's almost lost him, and there's still a chance she could lose him. And she's very heavily deep-minded of that. This is kind of where she is at the moment in a process of thought, and she's drinking on her own. She wants to think about Vitalia and Briella and everyone else she's lost, but her mind is just clogged with thoughts of Centauros. And she wants to go somewhere else to talk privately about this. And this is a big step for her, wanting to actually talk to somebody because, like I said, she's the leader, she's the boss. And having that for her is, wanting to actually able to talk to someone that she can trust. And this is powerful for both Ragni. It shows her that Sigurd is willing to trust her with this information, willing to be vulnerable around her. And it's also powerful for her as a leader that she can actually now take command of this and show someone that has protected her, someone that has always been her guardian, that she can be the protector, that she can be the guardian. These are the powerful things when it comes to storytelling, that the dynamics sometimes will always change. Sometimes will always change. That doesn't make any sense, but you know what I mean. Things move and change all the time in stories and in life, that nothing will ever stay the same. As much as we are creatures of routine, things will change, and they're always bound to, either both good or bad. Who knows? This could be a place that Sigurd buys far into the future, and she'll sit down this fire as a peaceful place to kind of calm her thoughts and remember the conversation you had with somebody that she might no longer have around anymore. And, this will be a powerful moment for her, sort of a place she comes to kind of rest, and because this is where she becomes very vulnerable. She really, there's a bit of joking here, but she's talking about, like, where the hell's the mead? You're a pussy if you don't drink mead. You gotta drink the tough shit, the mead, And Brady's like, yep, Centaurus is right. It tastes like sheep's piss. And Sigurd's like, you're soft in the head. But it kind of comes back to her because she's also falling in love with Centaurus. And all this sort of stuff. And it's just a matter of reflecting. You can't go fully heavily deep into the story. I mean, during this conversation, I was planning on having Ragni talk to her about, asking her about Centaurus becoming a vampire. And that was going to happen, but it just got so deep, it got so long that I thought it might be a bit more impactful if Centaurus talks to her about this, rather than Ragni, because of how close they're coming, how much they've fallen for each other, that it might be a lot more powerful if Centaurus does this. But again, you can't just fully dive into it. She's brought some wine. She likes the taste of wine. Maybe, if Sigurd's drinking some wine, she might be a bit more talkative. But Sigurd's like, dude, I'm here with you right now. I've got nothing to really lose and everything to say. You don't need to get me drunk to talk. Tell me to get me to talk. I'm here. I'm willing. Just let me talk. And this is powerful, obviously, for obviously, because, like I said, the dynamic is changing from protected, from guardian to guarded, and now in this moment, Ragni gets to be the protector of Sigurd, and it's a very beautiful thing. And she gets to really mold with her. I mean, I realised that I don't know if she's told Centaurus or Sigurd that she was, that her father was legionary. She's definitely mentioned that she is, obviously along her story, but they don't know much about her. They don't know who she was. And she kept that from them, especially when she went back to her old family home and she was near that drug of ruin she learnt a word of power from. She kept herself very guarded from these two because, at the end of the day, she knew they were using her because they wanted her to join their side of the war so that she could end it. And this is how she saw them. She didn't want them to know. She didn't want them to know who she was, where she lived, and who she was. And that's fair. She kept herself guarded. But at this stage of her story, they are her family. She loves them, incredibly. Like it's family. These Centaurus and Sigurd are basically her siblings in a way. She deeply cares and loves them. And so she's, willing to finally tell Sigurd who she was. And she tells her that, that her parents were serial Nords. Why is this shit so blurry? Oh my god. Anyway, it's a vision. Get used to it. That they moved to... She just tells her a story of what happened and, how she came to be. And this is a big thing for Sigurd, for both of them, because, I mean, Centaurus doesn't even know this at the moment. And he might find it a little bit later. Or Sigurd might tell him. But, yeah, it's just one of those things where she talks about her life. And this is like the only person that really knows who she was Leonid, because she told him, the Dawnguard lover, because they had similar upbringings and they lost people to vampires. Obviously Serana, because that's the love of her life. And now Sigurd knows. And obviously Rognik knows too. I think he knows. Yeah, I think he knows. They've had a conversation about this. So telling Sigurd her life is very important. And then for Sigurd finding out that Ragni had a sister, it was like, holy shit. Like, that she was also an older sister. That, that she thought she was the only one there that had lost a sibling. And realizing the sort of... the guilt that she faced was nothing compared to what Ragni was going through as a sister, that she complained about her sister dying. and around the Dragonborn, not knowing that, well, the Dragonborn had also lost her sister many years ago, and to sort of catch up to really, they both talk about this being like, I've only known you for a short time, but I feel like I've known you my entire life, and it's one of those things where you learn things about people that you had no idea about, that you trusted, every bit you've known them for, and it's I think this one of these scenes made me fucking cry, man. And dude, I don't like crying. I mean, no dude likes crying. Well, no normal dude. What the fuck is normal these days? And man, if I'm feeling something from this, hopefully someone else is. Because if I'm gonna cry, bro, you gotta cry too. I don't give a fuck. Like this shit. It is. I do go deep into the emotions of these characters because, again, even though I watched that 3 months ago, it left such a impact on me. Arcane. It left an impact that is obviously still felt through the stories I do. And every artist, they do things that inspire them, and people that draw pictures will draw characters from Arcane. People that do songs will do songs from Arcane, and people that tell stories will borrow those feelings that story taught. That's one story to another story, and you're kind of inspired from those stories to really lean into your characters, really make them feel real, get into the emotion of them. And so I can't go doing Arcane and Skyrim. I can't do that, but I can bring a presence of that story, of how it made me feel, and hopefully pass on to some other people how it made them feel. I could just be a fucking pussy for all I know, and I'm just the only one feeling this shit, but I don't know, no one tells me. So it's probably best I don't know. So I feel like I'm just, I feel like everyone else is suffering with me. Anyway, it's just kind of a realization that these two are having a conversation, and it's very much like Tonrak and Centauros, where, really Sigun's pouring her heart out. She really is, and these guys are bouncing each other like stuff. That Ragni is really telling her the story of her and Serana, how she hated her, that it was her ultimate enemy, and that through their journey, that when they came together, that she started to really get used to her and really rely on her, and eventually came to like having her around, even though she hated the idea of it because she was a vampire hunter, because they killed her family. And that idea is still there, of course. They're just reflecting of each other again, and she's trying to explain to Sigun that what she's feeling for Centauros isn't wrong, isn't bad, that that she should accept it, because what she says to Ragni about her feelings is exactly how she felt about Serana. It's the reflection. It's I've been there, I've done that, and she said that in another chapter where she goes, "When you know, come and find me." And this is kind of that thing that I talked about when they were inside that Hag's End. She goes, "When you know, come and find me. I understand what you're feeling." And here we are. They're there. And like I said, the feeling for this is getting, well, it's starting to feel like the right time is getting very, very warm. And having these two kind of talk to both their, people they feel they can really talk to is, it's I don't know, man. Like I said, I'm no professional storyteller, but I feel this shit just mirrors itself. It's like a parallel between Centauros and Sigun, talking to someone they trust, someone they've fought with, someone they've this and that, to kind of really talk about how they feel about their perspective on how they feel. And for me, I love this moment, man, because when I first started the story, Sigun was just going to be the Stormcloak soldier. She was going to attack the Thalmor, and that was going to be her story, and it's going to be Civil War stuff until the Dragonborn. But how much she has changed in my story is unbelievable to me, man. She has evolved so much, and I love that. She's become essentially a main character. Those that know that I played the Imperial playthrough. The Empire will obviously win, but I feel so in tune with her. I even feel like I want Centauros to follow her on the war's done, because Marilia can still complete the Civil War quest line. She can kill Ulfric, But there's a part of me that doesn't want to do that, but I feel so in tune with her that I feel like I'm an Imperial player, man, but I feel so much for the Stormcloaks now, playing them through their perspective, that I feel for them, that Centauros is obviously a reflection of myself, and that he is also kind of there in the same boat, that he kind of feels that maybe the Stormcloaks weren't the ultimate enemy that they were, and she's feeling the exact same thing, but not for the Empire, but for Centauros. And they're kind of just, they're reflecting so much from each other right now. And like I said, man, the time for it is getting quite warm. And I said that I was obviously going to have Ragni tell her about Centaurus wanting to becoming a vampire. But the conversation was going too long, and I didn't think it was really appropriate for her to bring it up after everything she just said. You know, she just poured her heart out. And it felt appropriate that maybe, you know, that Ragni will pretty much help her meet Centaurus on her own. And, you know, that it'd be a perfect place for them to talk about it, because she does want to find the perspectives out, essentially from the others, from what they want to do with what their decision would be for turning Centaurus into a vampire. And she obviously was going to take Sigurd to ask her this, but she realised with this conversation that she really wants she really wants to help her get to Centaurus. And the little trick she brings up is actually fun, because I made that up on the spot, and I realised that it was actually something that she did in the College of Winterhold. And I was like, oh, yeah, that was pretty cool. Maybe I might use that again. This might be a little trick that she can give on to Sigurd to kind of bypass her through solitude. And you'll see it when it happens. But it's a cool little thing that, you know, that she noticed when she was in the College of Winterhold, that no one recognised her. And if you go back there and have a look at that, you know where I'm going with this. Anyway, Ragni really wants to help these two find each other. I mean, like I said, she knows what it means to fall in love with your enemy, and she knows how powerful it is to be in love with your enemy. And she doesn't want these two to miss out on what she has with Serana. So she's obviously going to be helping these guys quite a bit, and it'll be a bit more tricky than that, because it's not good versus evil. It's, you know, it's red versus blue, and she's going to have to help them a little bit, trying to help keep their secret, or trying to help them move around, because they're going to have to keep professional to their sides and work together as like, you know, commanders, but, you know, not really keep eye contact with each other, and kind of somewhat ignore each other in a way that isn't professional. And then when they need to kind of, well, we'll get to that in later days. I'll go and make sure they do it right first. But yeah, I've really enjoyed telling this story, man. I hope I've done it justice, and I really hope that people feel something from these stories, or it feels like it's, you know, that this is the way it should be. That the way they talk to each other, the way they act around each other, the way the story goes, it just feels natural. That's really what I want to get out of this entire story. Is I want people to really feel that this would be a story that you know, as a child growing up in the Imperial City 600 years after the events of the Dragonborn, this is something that you could read and really, or a fictional story read, you know, created by those that were around, that this is a story that you could really get into. And then the book that Minerva wrote of her journeys and the characters and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this background stuff. Now, if you do have any sort of comments, I'm not going to lock the comments in this video, but hopefully you can please put them over into the main video. There should be, I'll even put that up here on the end screen real soon. It will help that video find more people that really enjoy storytelling. I don't really care about views, but I do obviously want to bring a bigger community to the storytelling of Elder Scrolls, Skyrim, and stuff like that. You know, to inspire people to make their own stories, and to just have people that really enjoy this sort of stuff come in and watch this sort of stuff. So yeah, I will leave a thing at the end screen of that video. If you've got anything to say, I'd appreciate it if you could drop it over there, because it will help. It will help the story, chapter 11, get out to more eyes on YouTube. Because obviously there's people that are going to love this stuff that have no idea about it, and when they find it, they're going to deep dive into it like many others have come along. Anyway, cheers for watching. I'll catch you guys in another video.